Join us at the next Spurs Show live on the 6th of May with special guests Gary Mabbutt and Glenn Hoddle. Reserve your place now at live.spursshow.net.
This show is brought to you in association with Paddy Power. Get a free £20 bet when you sign up and bet a tenner at paddypower.com/The Spurs Show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Spurs Show Live. Oh, look what's happened. I don't know if anyone's watching on the electric television, but that's not supposed to happen. Anyway, it's great, though, because it's really live. This is actually happening live. This is a live version of the Spurs Show, and we've got a wonderful audience here in a Oh, beautiful. They're lovely, aren't they? Lovely lot. I don't care what anyone says, you're still my favourite. Yes, anyway. Oh, look at that. Oh dear, story of my life. Mr. Topical, yeah. Anyway, right, and we've got a very special show for you tonight, and I think people are listening live, Michael.
Yeah, live on Mixer.com.
Yeah, how about that? So we're all going live, folks, to sound like you're interested. I know you've come to Dingwalls, you know, it's a tourist attraction. It's actually not called Dingwalls anymore, it's called Highlights. Anyway, this is the Spurs Show Live, and tonight it's very special because we have two guests on here who obviously Tottenham fans will be familiar with. I sincerely flipping hope so, if you follow this great club of ours. Sitting to my right is a gentleman called Mr. Alan Gilzean. Who only managed 133 goals. You know. Really, Gilly, 133 in 343 appearances. That's not bad, is it?
Quite good.
That's quite a good return, isn't it, mate? Well, should get him in. Move in.
Quite good. I had a better scoring record at Dundee in Scotland.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Scottish football is easier.
Yeah, and that record that Gilly's talking about was 169 and 190. Ronaldo-esque, I say. Messi-esque, if you can say that. And to his right, ladies and gentlemen, the Spurs goalkeeper, Pat Jennings. Beautiful. Ah, beautiful. Fantastic stuff. And, of course, not forgetting Mr. Mike Leigh, who's here.
Thank you for coming out on a Monday night. Thank you very much.
It's good to see you out on a Monday night, mate.
Yeah, for those who can't see or hear this, there's a lot of people here, and it's very hot.
It is, actually. It is.
Very, very hot.
You're schwitzing there, mate, as
certainly
they say.
am.
Jackie Mason would say. OK, so, what have we got here, Mike? So, now then...
It's a special show. We're not going to do the normal stuff about... Hopefully by the end we'll talk about the present team and how we've done this week, but...
Okay.
We're going to hand this over to Alan and Pat, really, and ask them some questions.
Sure. Boys, thanks for coming on, mate, and sitting in front of this mob of people.
What a pride, biggest pride I've played to for I don't know long.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's great. Right, this is actually a question. We'll start with a question here, Mike. Question to both of you, right? You both joined Tottenham at the same time in 1964, where you were seen as eventual replacements for Bill Brown and, in your case, Gilly Bobby Smith. Do you know when you were both scouted by Spurs and the circumstances that got you to White Hart Lane? I don't know who wants to start that. I mean, do you know when you were... Alan?
Well, first of all, I asked for a transfer from Dundee, and basically because when I was a young lad, my ambition was to play at Wembley in a FA Cup final. And I was desperate to play at Wembley in an FA Cup final. So Dundee didn't want to sell me, but then eventually they allowed me to leave, but they wanted me to join Sunderland. And I looked at Sunderland's record of going to Wembley. and they didn't get... I think they were in my lifetime, they've only been there once. And Tottenham, obviously, was after the great double side. And they had the flavour of going there. And basically, I wanted to come to Tottenham. But I was 3 months on the dole. I had to sign on the dole. Dundee wouldn't let me go, and they wouldn't pay my wages. So I had to sign on the dole. So eventually, it came to a deadlock. That Bill Nicholson agreed a fee with with Dundee, and I met Bill Nicholson at Dundee, and within a couple of days I decided Tottenham was my club. But funny, I met tonight the great John White's son.
Yeah, Rob White.
And
who's here. He's among us tonight.
I was John White's roommate with Scotland, and it was John who really talked me into signing for Tottenham Hotspur. And I was greatly indebted to John for doing that, but unfortunately I didn't have the pleasure to play in the white shirt with him. So that basically was how I came to Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, well, that's great. Brilliant. That's great, Gilly. Cheers, mate. That's lovely. And for you, Pat, mate, you know, from Watford.
Well, I joined from Watford. Literally, I got picked to play for the Irish youth team whenever I was 17 from playing from a local club, Newry Town. And believe it or not, whenever I got picked to play to go and represent Ireland, I wasn't fussy. I'd never been any further south than Dublin or any further north than Belfast at 17. And I didn't know whether I wanted to go to England to play in a European competition. But I got picked to play for Northern Ireland. We still had to go down to play the south. We finish up winning, and now I'm going to play in a European youth tournament. We finish up unbelievably 10 days later in the final at Wembley. So if you can imagine what a thrill that was, literally in those days, unless you played in an FA Cup final or played for England or your country, nobody ever got to play at Wembley.
Play at Wembley, no.
So that was how lucky I was. I was back at work in one day, and then the next thing I got to go to train that night at Newry, and a couple of clubs were in for me, Watford and Jimmy Hill from Coventry. Signed for Watford, did 4 games to go at the end of that season. They didn't play me the first 2 games because they were in danger of being relegated. Got themselves out of relegation bother, and I played the last 2 games that season, and then went all the way through the next season, played every game the next season, and we missed promotion from the 2nd to the 3rd. So we went from a relegation threatened team 1 year, and the next year we missed promotion by a point. So I obviously had a fantastic year, and it's, as you know, Watford's just outside London, and I was getting a lot of good press for the local papers and that. So I went home again the next year to Ireland on holiday, and I get a call through the close season to come back. That, by the way, he wanted me back. Bill McGarry was the manager. He wanted me back to do some extra training. So he picked me up at Heathrow and said, "Do you know why you're here, son?" I said, "No, I believe back to do some extra training." He said, "Well, actually, no, the great man himself, Bill Nicholson's waiting for you at Vicarage Road." So that was me, went back. Yeah. And believe it or not, I didn't sign that day. And I went back home to Ireland without signing. It was a money problem, not like Gilly, but more or less. I think Watford had paid $6,500 for me 1 year, and then I'd been sold. I asked Bill McGarry what was the fee was. He said, "None of your business." So it wasn't the day of it. Nowadays agents know first what the fees are, and they're getting a cut of the transfer. Yeah. And I didn't know in those days that you weren't eligible to have a cut of the transfer. So I actually went back home without signing, and then after about a week I got a letter from Bill to say, "Have you thought any more about your move to Tottenham? Because if you don't want to sign, I've got to go and get somebody else." So within a couple of days then Watford were on, and they actually came to Belfast, and I signed on the night in Belfast. Signed a 2-year contract. It was like getting blood out of a stone, getting money from Bill Nick. You probably found that as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I heard that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Amazing.
Anyway,
Alan,
I've got to tell you as well, my first contract with Watford was £23 a week and 25 and made the first team. And believe it or not, I thought I'd won the pools. Couldn't believe it. So now I'm joining the great Tottenham and Bill said, right, your wages will be £35 a week.
Wow.
I said, Bill, I take home £35 a week at Watford. So he obviously didn't believe me. He said, I can check on that. And I said, plus the fact, Bill, I'm an international as well. I'd actually played a couple of games for Northern Ireland from Watford. He says, you're no international, son. Typical of Bill. So I finished up anyway. Eventually I signed a contract for £40 a week and £10 if I played in the first team. So I'm there about 2-3 years, and the boys said to me, the older boys, look, you must be due another contract. So I plucked up courage to go in and say to Bill, I'm due to sign a new contract. So he sat back, he says, what are you on now? I said, £40 a week and a tenner appearance. And I said, I'm in the team every week. So he thought about it for a while. He says, right, I'll put you up to £45 a week and knock you back to a £5 appearance.
Yeah, and that's true. Is that true? Pat, that's true. Yeah.
Gilly's laughing. He knows what he was like with the money.
We've heard this before, Mike, haven't we? It's quite a theme, this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Alan, I read as well that you almost went to Torino in Italy. Is that correct?
No, I had the chance. I took terms with Torino in Italy, but it was just after Jimmy Greaves and Dennis Law had played in Italy, and I talked to Greavesy, and Greavesy reckoned it was like a prison sentence. He didn't like it at all. But and I also talked with Dennis Law, and Dennis said no, it wasn't for him. And Joe Baker was also there, and they didn't fancy it. But the money was very good. What they offered was very good. But I'd played for Dundee in the semi-final of the European Cup, home and away against AC Milan. And the tactics they used against us was terrible. They were gobbing in your eyes and everything. Horrible. But I don't regret turning them down, because I had 10 wonderful years at Spurs.
Well, we're really glad you didn't turn them down. That's for sure. There's a Pat. I just want to ask you here. You only played. You'd only played a season at Watford, as you say, before signing for Spurs. How easy was it to actually adjust from the old third division, as it then was, to playing for Tottenham? How easy was the adjustment, mate?
To be honest, I mean, as I said, I started at 17, 15 months early, and playing the Irish B League. So I mean, it was just a matter of somebody put me on the next rung of the ladder, and ignorance was bliss as far as I was concerned.
No fear.
I'd obviously had a great year at Watford, and then all of a sudden I'm hitting the first division. And I thought in the early days I was doing well, getting the parry shots, not holding them, and somebody was on your bootlaces knocking them in. And that was the difference. I wasn't long learning, you know. But I more or less, I spent the first 2 years, I got into the team the second part of the second year that I was at the club, shared with Bill Bryan, year and a half.
Yeah.
And got in then the second part of the second year and went all the way through for the next 13 years.
Was John Hollowbred there still, or was he?
No, he had gone.
Oh, he'd gone. He was back. Yeah.
There was a couple of young ones there at that time, Roy Bryan and
Mabbutt Brown.
Question to both of you. You already touched on Bill, Nick. To you, Anna, what was he like to work for, to work under?
Well, I never had much to do with him, actually, because I was only in his office twice in 10 years. I was, and that was to resign. And, it's impossible to say. He moaned a lot, but after games, if he Christ Gilly, and you should have been doing this and you should have been doing that. But he was a very honest man, you know. But
you knew where you were with him.
You knew where you were with him. He laid down what you wanted, expected of you. And I had it a wee bit hard to begin with, because he expected me to go around like Bobby Smith, knocking people for six and all that. And that wasn't my style. And he kept saying, Bobby Smith would have had that goalkeeper in the net and things like that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm sorry, you better go and get Bobby Smith back again. You know, but to be fair to him, he was always good to me, and he listened to me and all that. But as I say, I was only twice in his office in 10 years, so he must have liked me.
Yeah.
And Pat, and for you, I mean, you know, obviously a goalkeeper is such a specialist position, and if you make, not thankfully you didn't make many mistakes for Spurs, you make a mistake, it's magnified. What was he like?
Yeah, but he just expected you to do the ordinary things well. That was him. And if you could come out and catch 10 crosses, and he would want to know about the one that you didn't catch. You know, same with Gilly. He could score 2 or 3 goals one day and miss a chance, and he would want to know about the one you missed. It was just expected of you, you know. I think in all the years I was there, we went after, I don't know, many years, in the UEFA Cup we played Grasshoppers, and we won, I think, 4 or 5 on the night, Gilly. You would have been playing that night. Won it easily, but I had somehow made 5 or 6 saves in the match. And whenever I came in after the match, I sat down and he said to the team, to these, you lot, he said, you should give your goalkeeper your bonus money tonight. And that was the only compliment he ever paid me in all the years.
That's great.
That's one more than me.
Never went overboard. I mean, he was unbelievable in terms of round the dressing room half an hour before kick-off and round every player. He would have told me who I was playing against the opposition, what the wingers were, what they were liable to do, what the strengths good in the air, who might come through from midfield.
His preparation was good. His preparation was
the same
thorough,
exactly with Gilly, didn't he? Round every player half an hour before kick-off. There was no videos in those days, but that was it. He was so thorough. Of course. And I can honestly say, I've said this so many times, all the managers I've worked with at a club since, at international level, club level, I've never heard anything new that I haven't heard from Bill Nick 50 years ago.
Bill Nicholson.
Unbelievable manager. Yeah.
I'm going to ask Alan here about your partnership with Greavesy, the G-Men, as you're both known as. It's probably the greatest striking partnership the club's ever seen. Why do you think it works so well, Gilly, with Greavesy?
Well, I can remember watching Chelsea on the television, and the 2 strikers were David Cliss and Jimmy Greaves, and I remember saying to myself, Christ, this guy's some player. And a few years passed, and then I went to watch Scotland playing at Wembley, and England thrashed us 9-3. Not too many Scots in here,
There's no need for that.
Anyhow, England thrashed us 9-3, and Greavesy ran amok. And the following week he was away to Italy. And then the next time I bumped into him, I played for the Scotland under-23s at Aberdeen. And Greavesy was in the opposition, and again, they beat us. So when it comes to time to sign for somebody, I said, if you can't beat them, you've got to join them, haven't you? It's as easy as that. But when you line up with a guy, like, he was so unassuming, no big-headedness at all, right down-to-earth guy. But when he got on that park, he was quicksilver.
He was so quick, wasn't he?
He was quicksilver, and his awareness and his calmness under pressure. And I've said recently, when I watch Lionel Messi now, that was like watching Greavesy all these years ago. Greavesy was that good.
He was that good at Gilly, I think.
And it broke my heart the day he left Tottenham, because I think he was rushed into leaving Tottenham with a swap with Martin Peters. But he seemed to lose faith in his own ability then, and that was very sad, because he was one hell of a player.
That's great, Gilly.
Question for
Just talking about Greavesy, for me there was nobody to touch him. I say that every week. Just in the class of his own, unbelievable. And for me, my first international played England at Wembley. First year I played against England. We were 3-0 down at half time. Greavesy had got 3 of them. Finished up, I think at the end of the match we lost 4-3, got back into the second half. But that was my mate Jim, 3 goals against me. And as Gilly said, I had so many years of regrets afterwards, thinking somehow we must have been able to do a deal to obviously buy Martin Peters and keep him at the club, because I think he could have played for Tottenham for the next 5 or 6 years. Exactly. He came back every international, your international testimonials, Gilly. He scored in mine, scored in Gilly's. Every international he just come back. He'd been away from the game 5 or 6 years and scored for fun. Unbelievable player. And for me, from looking back my early days, I obviously struggled, didn't know what was required in the first division. And I probably cost him, I don't know how many bonuses, but he'd come in after matches, put his arm around me and say, son, don't worry, you're going to be the best. And I've never forgotten him for that. As Gilly said, he was so
Jimmy
down to earth
Greaves.
person, you know.
Jimmy Greaves. Right.
Um, as a goalkeeper, as the Spurs fans out there, we've had a few good goalkeepers in our time. We've had a lot of terrible ones.
Yeah, we've had a few.
Terrible keepers. How important was it in that team for you to have a relatively stable back four? You look at now, through injuries or rotations, we don't seem to have a week in, week out, the same back four. When you were playing that sort of mid-60s team, what was the sort of back four in front of you, and how did that shape your game?
Without a doubt, I mean, you get stability playing with people that you know week in, week out. And after we joined, the great Mike England joined us. And I mean, what a centre-half Mike was.
Oh,
Unbelievable,
he was one of the best. He
Fantastic.
was
So
one of the best.
dominant in the air. If he didn't get them, I got them. And I mean, in those days, everybody played with wingers. The crosses used to come in with snow on them. So if I didn't get them, Mike got them. So with no danger, with two unbelievable fullbacks in Cyril Knowles. In the early days, I followed Ron Henry. Peter Baker was on the other side, but then Joe Kinnear and Cyril. And my safety net was Phil Beale. Alongside Mike, he was my follow-up merchant. I used to say to him, Phil, and everybody before I went out, follow-up guys. And if I lost it or parried a shot or made half a save, Phil was always there to clean up. So that's sort of it. I mean, for me, that was so important. But I mean, the team, unfortunately, we were trying to emulate or follow the double-winning team. And all these new players were coming together. The same as we've got a problem now with so many new players. But somehow would seem to gel quicker. But having said that was always the problems were set, that the team was never going to be as good or trying to be as good as the 60-61 team.
Right, I was going to ask you a question for both of you. Your first medals for Spurs were the 67 Cup final win against Chelsea. Jimmy Robertson, Frank Saul. We remember. What are your memories of that Cup run, Gilly and Pat, and the final? Gilly?
Yeah, well, the early rounds, I can remember...
Birmingham, Millwall?
Birmingham, we drew Birmingham and I think we thrashed them at 6 or something at White Hart Lane. Then we had a difficult time, Millwall away, and we come away with a draw there, and it wasn't a good game the second game either. We scraped through at White Hart Lane 1-0, but we didn't play well. But after that, we started to play, and... the Cup final, well, that was special. It's special for everybody, the FA Cup final, because I don't think, like, when comes May time and the cherry blossoms out, it's great for footballers to go around that North Circular Road, especially from Tottenham, with all the blue and white flags out, you know. That is a special
was that your dream? That was your dream, to play at Wembley in a Cup final as a kid, sort of thing?
That was one of the reasons to sign for Tottenham. That was my dream.
It must have been unbelievable, England, sort of walking out.
And like to win it and all that, and the camaraderie after the game. You had Dave Mackay saying to Joe Kinnear, Joe kept looking at his medal, like Joe was only 17 and Mackay had 3 medals by then.
Yes.
And he says, don't worry son, if you lose it I'll give you one of mine, you know. And that was the sort of guy Mackay was, you know. When we came out the tunnel with the Chelsea players, he was looking at the Chelsea players and saying, you don't fancy it, do you?
I love it.
And that's the sort of character we had as a captain, you know. Like, the big barrel chest used to come out, and he just wanted to attack. And
he was a phenomenal player, Mackay, wasn't he, Gilly? People talk about him as possibly...
He was the heart of the club. He was the heart of the club. Every game he played in, he wanted to win. Yeah. I was playing golf once with him, with Jimmy Robertson, Dave Mackay and me, and we were playing in San Francisco, and we're playing golf. And I was out of it. There was a knockout tournament between the three of us. Coming down the 17th, Robbo and Mackay were level. And came a downpour, heavy rain, and there was puddles starting to appear on the course. So Mackay got on the green with his second shot. Jimmy Robbo's second shot stuck in a puddle short of the green. So he says to Davy, like, water hazard, I can move the ball. Mackay says, you don't move that ball. He says, that puddle was there before you played your second shot. Get on with it.
That sums him up,
Yeah,
Gilly.
and that sums Davy Mackay up. He would never give in. In the practice matches, in the ball
on the pitch,
court.
a leader?
Oh, a leader,
Great leader.
Fantastic leader. He's a guy you want in the trenches with you.
Yeah. Yeah, you were saying that on the ball court. Sorry, I interrupted.
In the ball court. Oh, I've seen him chin two guys in there, and that's just at practicing. That is just practice. That's how much he was intent in winning. Knockabout.
Was that cup final a niggly game, Gilly?
No.
Ron Harris and people, were they getting at you?
Not really. It wasn't a niggly. Like in a cup final, it's bringing the trophy home. It's all important, you know.
Nerves? Did you play with nerves at the beginning? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I think everybody's nervous because most of the Tottenham team at that time, apart from Davy Mackay and Jonesy, who was by then a substitute, we were all new to it, you know, and none of us had ever had that experience before, only Mackay, but he did well to calm the nerves.
And Pat, obviously Pat, Chelsea, we scored first, didn't we? Jimmy Roberts, and then Bobby Tamblyn got an equaliser, didn't he?
Yeah,
sorry, Pat.
We were 2-0 up at that stage.
You got one back. Right. I was only 2.
Bobby Tamblyn got one off his shoulder, I think. But I mean, I thought...
Bit lucky, was it, Pat?
Yeah. No, it was my fault. I should have done better. So I had a little 10-minute spell panicking at the end. Whenever I look back, I made 2 or 3 brilliant saves in the match.
You did.
One in particular on my right-hand side that I managed somehow to get it over the bar. From Charlie Cook.
It's on YouTube. You can see it. I've seen it.
But I mean,
amazing.
going back, from my point of view, it's always nice to get your first medal under your belt. And for me, that was my first cup final. And even the thought, we played Forest in the semi-final, Gilly, didn't we?
That's right.
Struggled against Millwall, eventually beating them 1-0. I think then we played Portsmouth, Bristol struggled
City,
against Bristol City. I think
Forest in the semi.
Twice taken penalty in that match to get through to the next round against Bristol. There was 2 penalties in that. Saved one. I think I don't know what somebody moved and saved the second one as well. But then we went to Forest, who were a hell of a team.
Yeah, they were a good side.
And they actually finished runners-up to Manchester United.
They
in the
did.
league. So that was how good they were.
We were third, weren't we?
Mackay that day, do you remember he gave big Frank Wignall, put him out of action. I don't know what happened in the match this day, but it was a free kick into our box, and Mike England was going to pick up this Frank Wignall, and Mackay said, "Leave him to me." And Mike said, "You can't mark him. He's about 6 inches taller." And he said, "Clear off, leave him to me." And somehow Frank Wignall was picking himself up off the deck and finished the rest of the match wasn't he? Really struggled.
Oh, God.
So we won the match, but for me, then the final, there was another Newry man, a fella from the same street as me in Northern Ireland, a fella called Peter McParn, had won the cup for Aston Villa, scored the 2 goals against Aston Villa Man United, 1957. So I could remember me as a kid going to the celebrations whenever he came home. So now I'm getting telegrams from, I think, half of my Newry messages, letters, make sure you bring home another medal to Newry. So the pressure was really on. But so it was a fantastic day to get that first medal. Absolutely.
It meant so much then, the FA Cup. Now, you didn't... You don't know when the games are played while there's other league games going on.
And the pressure, the Premiership's around the world now. In those days, the FA Cup was the only thing that was around the world from our point of view.
Yeah, and we got an easy one in the 3rd round this season, didn't we?
Yeah, no problem.
Alan, in the subsequent Cup Winners' Cup run after he won the FA Cup, I read about in the Martin Clough Adam Powley book, and they're both here tonight, the Glory Nights. There was quite a game in Lyon when Alan Mullery was sent off for fighting, and there was talk about it carrying on down the tunnel that night. And I believe there was a bit of trouble with you and Bill Nick. Bill Nick got involved.
Yeah, well, what happened, Mullery and a guy called Guy, they clashed and they both got sent off. And the referee was going to be sending the wrong guy off in the French team. And I pointed out to the referee that it was Guy who was the offender with Mullery. And eventually he sent Guy off. But coming down the tunnel, there was just an atmosphere there was going to be trouble. And I says to Pat,
whenever I came up at half-time, whenever it went off, everybody joined in. I started to run out to get him. They were kicking lumps out of each other.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, the crowd, they had beat me to it. They got to it before I got there. So I backed off, and eventually it was all settled down. And whenever I come up at half-time, Gilly's waiting on me. He says, "Hi, big man, there's going to be trouble here. Will you keep an eye on me?" Like,
a minder.
Yeah,
a minder, eh?
So
lovely.
It was
That's
like
lovely.
This dressing room, into the dressing room, Gilly, it was like the sidings for a railway station. There's doors everywhere, like. And I'm going through watching the doors. The next minute I hear, bang, this fella's chin Gilly. And now,
my minder, eh?
Yeah, the minder. So now Bill Nick, he's in front of me. He's in this guy's on his back, him with a big trench coat, isn't he? Bill Nick fighting this bloke. You so and so, you know. That was the story, Gilly.
It was an enjoyable match. But the funny thing is, the replay we got them at White Hart Lane, and this was really funny. Like, Guy obviously couldn't play, and unfortunately Mike England was injured, he couldn't play. And lo and behold, they beat us. We beat them 4-3, but on away goals, they went through. You know? And I can remember coming in, and he got a hold of Gilzean and me, Bill Nick, and he gave us a right rollicking. We'd scored 4, but the defence had lost 3, and we were out on away goals, and Bill Nick blamed the forwards. Yeah, it's a funny old world, isn't it?
Talking about the well, we talk about sort of '67 now. The Charity Shield match, which obviously many people here will remember or seen on video. You famously scored. I think the first goalkeeper to score in open play. You the first goalkeeper, weren't you? Certainly in this country.
Yeah, I had never seen it, but seen it done before, and it was a free kick just outside our box, and Mackay was in his run up to take it. I said, "Give it to me, Gilly, I'll knock it up." So he rolled it back to me. "Give it to me, Dave, I'll roll it up." And I was trying to hit Alan here up front, and you can imagine travelling the length of the field. It's missed Alan, and now Alex Stepney's come out the back of Alan thinking he's going to pick up a miscontrolled ball, and it bounced, and now Alex in no man's land, and the next bounce is in the back of the net, and everybody, including me,
goalkeeper scoring.
Yeah, everybody, including me, thinks, "What does he give? We'd never seen it before."
Yeah.
And poor old Kenneth Wilson home, lucky enough it was on telly, Community Shield, and it took Kenneth Wilson home, it's about half a minute to say that Jennings had scored a goal.
I know, it's legendary.
I tell people that I've seen Alex off his line, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I also got to tell you that Mackay claimed an assist.
Great.
Alan, when you mentioned Jimmy Greaves being sold to West Ham, you then forged a wonderful partnership with Martin Chivers. With his style of playing, how did you then have to adjust your game for Tottenham?
Completely different. I went more towards the right wing, and it was a different type of player. You know, Martin was a completely different player from Jimmy. Jimmy was more natural talent, where Martin was training ground. Like, if you persevere, you come good, you know. And Martin had a fantastic shot, strong, he could hold people off the ball and all that, where Greavesy was lightning fast, you know, dribbling skills. And we got on well together, Martin and me, a big, strong guy, and Martin Peters also came into the scene, and we were more or less playing 3 forwards at that time. And it worked well. Obviously, we won 3 cups in about 4 years, and it was a good team. And Martin Shivers had 2 wonderful seasons where he was hitting them from everywhere, and they were going flashing into the net, and it was just great to play with him.
All right, mate. Yeah, well, in the late 60s, Bill Nick started building another side, which obviously we're both linchpins of, culminating in the 72 UEFA Cup win and 2 League Cup wins, as you've just alluded to there. How did the players in this side differ to previous sides that you played in, previous Tottenham sides? How did it differ, and how did the style change, kind of thing, from the early?
This defensively, it was much the same, very similar. OK, Mackay had left, but defensively we were more or less the same outfit. Pat was in the goal, Joe Kinnear and Cyril. Alan Mullery, Mike England and Philip Beale, they were a stronghold of the team. It was just more or less the forward line that had changed, and we had to change our style, because at the beginning when I went there, we had 2 flying machines on the wing. We had Jimmy Robertson on the right wing and Cliff Jones, fantastic Jonesy on the left wing. And these 2 guys could take the ball from just outside their own penalty box, away from home, and take it the length of the park. Yeah. And that was great pressure reliever for likes of Greavesy and me and that. But basically the defence was the same, but the forward line changed, basically because we played a more higher balls. We could throw more high balls into the box. Martin Peters, who was great in the air, Shivers good in the air, and myself good in the air. So there was more aerial stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and actually, notice this is for both of you. You both played with some wonderful players, and the whole social culture at Tottenham was well documented by Hunter Davis in his book The Glory Game. Did you think the portrayal of the team in that book was accurate, or were there some players not happy with that, the Glory Game?
No, well, some players weren't happy about it, because obviously if you do the run-of-the-mill things, fans won't buy the book. They want they want
they get the
naughty
gossip
stuff. They want people getting drunk and all that, and parties with women and all the rest of it. And what he didn't see, he made up. That's how I say it. I can remember him saying in the book that on the train back we were only allowed lagers, and we always had cans of lagers, and we had a card school going. Anyhow, there was Mackay, Nosey, England, me, we used to play cards, and the photographer came on with Hunter Davis, did the book, and there was a load of empty cans of lager, and they put them on in front of me and took the photo away.
Gilly.
I agree, I drunk my share, but not that long.
Mate,
you know, I didn't drink a lot of it. You know, but that's how things happen, and they make headlines of it, and in the book it goes. And there you go. What can you do? I personally, if I had been Bill Nick, I wouldn't have allowed the book, you know. But the guy must have sold a lot of copies, because there's a load of fans from Tottenham.
Wasn't there a story in there, Alan, that someone apparently saw you coming out of a nightclub at 3 a.m, and someone said no, he was going in to the nightclub?
Now, is that total rubbish, Gilly?
I got a reputation. I've got to admit, I did my share of nightclubbing. That's for sure. But I don't know. They probably did see me. I wouldn't argue that one.
It's fair to say, I mean, he spent a year with us, so that was the way he seen us. I mean, he described me in the book. He said I was a bag of nerves. And I mean, I was telling you couldn't believe that, Gilly, could you?
How could you say the best goalkeeper in the world is a bag of nerves? Let's be honest.
But that was the way he seen me. That was obviously him. And I mean, I can understand, because before we went out every match, I'd have been round the same players, round the defence, follow-up, knockdowns, same to the forwards. That was the last thing I said before going out every game. Follow-up boys at both ends. So I don't know whether he read that into me being a bag of nerves, but that was the way it was. But as I say, he spent a year with us, when Ryan interviewed all the players. And, I mean, the book was what it was, but I suppose, as Gilly said, if you need to make something interesting for the fans to read. Yeah. But to be fair to him, that was the way he seen us. So, honest, it wasn't a weekend job. He spent a complete year with us.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, Gilly, I'll ask you, Gilly, you retired from Spurs in the 73-74 season, and what was behind your decision to retire then?
To retire? Well, the decision came like the pre-season, the previous season, we get hard training. It was at Cheshunt these days, the training ground, and it was really hard, the training. And we were getting laps, and I was always good distance running, you know, I could go forever. And my legs seized up. And Eddie Bailey, the assistant manager, used to shout, "What's wrong with you? You're been out drinking and all that." I says, "My legs have seized up." And Bill Nick, he must have gone through it when he was a player himself. He took me aside and he says, "Right, you don't do all the heavy training." He says, "Do what you feel like." And I'll be eternally grateful for him for that, because he must have gone through it himself.
Yeah.
Because when you get 35, 36 or 37, the brain's sending out the messages, but the legs are not reacting.
Yeah.
That's the first time you realise you're on your way out.
Yeah.
And I had 10 wonderful years, and it was time to go. It's time to go. So you just got to accept.
And you were all right with that decision.
I was definitely all right with it.
Yeah.
Question to Pat. That's I think all of us have always wanted to really know this. When Bill Nick went, the Terry Neal came in, and then Keith Birkinshaw. We all know what happened. The club sold you to that lot down the road for a measly £40,000. What? Tell us that. What was the story? How did you feel? How did that come about? And who should we still be sending death letters to? Who is to blame for what happened in '77?
How long have we got an hour? No, unbelievable. I mean, as you heard earlier, I was Football of the Year in '76, PFA Player of the Year. And I come out the next year and I missed 21 games with an Achilles injury.
Right.
Basically couldn't kick dead balls, and the team were falling apart at the time. And at the end of the season, maybe another team, some of the defenders would have said, "Well, I'll knock it up for you," but there was nobody that volunteered to do that, so I was left out of the team. Dainsy came in for me. And I like to think, looking back, had I played in 10 or 12 of the games, I might have got enough points to keep them up, but something we'll never know. So I'm back fit again about the last month of the season, but by that time we're more or less gone. And I'm reading in the papers every week, Sunday papers, that I'm available for transfer. So last match we're away on the end of the season tour in Norway, and I thought, usually I go home to Ireland at the end of every year for 6-7 weeks. My wife, she's from the same place as me, so that was the natural thing. And I thought, well, I need to know what's happening before I come back. I don't want to go home, spend the summer in Ireland, wonder where I'm going to be next year. So I went to Keith and said, "Keith, I keep reading in the paper that I'm available for transfer. What's the story?" He said, "Well, actually, Bobby Robson was in for you at Easter, but he said it was worth more than what his job was worth to let me go." So I knew from that minute on that the writing was on the wall for me. So that was it. You can imagine, wasn't happy hearing that rejection. But off I went back to Ireland, came home, started pre-season, played in all the pre-season games, and I'm thinking, well, they're obviously going to offer me a contract. My contract was up. So got right up to the last week. The team were due to go to Sweden the next on the Friday morning for the last week of pre-season. So Keith came to me out in the training ground at 11 o'clock, not 9:30 or 10 o'clock, whenever I reported, out on the training pitch. He said, "Can I have a word?" And I thought the word was that whenever you pick it up, throw it there, kick it there, tactically like. So he said, "Right," he said, "now that we've decided that you can go," he said, "I don't want to take you to Sweden tomorrow. You'll be an embarrassment to Barry Danes." So you can imagine what my reaction was to that. Do you want me to apologise? I've been a good player all these years. So, I was absolutely gutted, as you can imagine. So I said, "By the way, what sort of money are you asking for me?" He said, "What do you think you're worth?" So I said, "Well, I know what I'm worth, but I don't think the club should be getting it. They bought me for 25,000, 26,000 13 years ago. And other players that the club bought for 200,000 do 5 or 6 years, they give them free transfers." And I said, "Now you want to sell me?" So he said, "Oh, it's going to be like that, is it?" I said, "Yeah, what do you think?" So that was the course of the conversation. Then the next thing he said, "Bobby Robson's ringing you tonight at 6 o'clock, I'm ringing you at 6:30. I want to know where you're going before I go to Sweden
And
tomorrow.
that Ipswich team was a good team. Well, it was just about to become a good team,
Yeah,
wasn't it? That 76, 37.
I said to that, well, if you think I'm going to make a decision to suit you in a half an hour, you've got another thought coming. So that was the way it went. And he said, oh, and by the way, Terry Neal's in from you, from Arsenal. But he said, I don't think there's any doubt as to where you should be going or who's the best team. I said, well, you can leave that to me as well. So that was a conversation. Terry Neal, to be fair to him, a month before, he's reading in the papers the same as me that I'm available. He rang me and I said, Terry, there's no way I can go to Arsenal. Can't happen, won't happen. So I left Keith anyway. That was the way I left him, on the training pitch. That afternoon, Bobby Robson rings me. I do the business with Bobby Robson, literally 10 minutes to go to Ipswich. He was going to let me where I live now. Travel 2 days a week to train, plus obviously turn up on match days, giving me a 2-year contract. He said, you can take it, the deal's done, you don't need to speak to anybody else. Take it as done, we're in Holland, and I'll speak with the directors tonight, but take it as done. So that was the way I left him. He rang me back in the night. Meanwhile, I've got Man United ring me up. The little coach at Tommy Kavanagh, you remember him, Gil? He was in Nottingham Forest. He was also our coach with the Northern Ireland team with Danny Blansflair. So he rang me up. It's out in the hotline that I'm available now for transfer. So he rings me up, come to Man U for 2 years. So I said, right, let me think about it, Tommy. Very nice, fantastic offer. I had Aston Villa in touch with me as well. Ron Saunders would have come to Aston Villa for a couple of years. So there was no shortage of clubs. So that was the way it was left. That night, Bobby Robson rings me back. We've got a problem. Trevor Weinmark broke his leg. Whatever money was spent on me, he then had to buy an outfield player. So the deal to Ipswich was off. So meanwhile then, the next day, I go to the ground to say cheerio to the players because I know whenever they come back the next week, I'll be gone. So I'm through the car park, hugs, all the lads that spent 10, 12 years there. Shake hands, hugs, and thanks for the good times, boys. So they're all on the coach now, and meanwhile I'm stood at the side of the coach. The directors come up from the office at the bottom of the car park. Every one of them walked past me, totally blanked me. Not even a phone call from any one of them after that. And whenever I went home that day, I said to them, Mrs., give me Terry Neal's number quick.
Oh, really? There's
only one place I'm going, and it's over the road where I'm going to create the biggest embarrassment I can for those directors. And that was me.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Just to finish the story, even the day I signed for, I went over with the assistant secretary at Tottenham, a little fella called Peter Day. I've been out and done the medical, walked through the medical. I was still at 32 in the top 6 at sprints at the club. So I knew there was no shortage of, fitness-wise wasn't a problem. So I'm in the room, I've done the medical, I've come back in, I'm sitting in this room with our secretary, and he said to me, Pat, are you sure you want to be transferred? I said, Peter, what are you talking about? I said, I'm getting not one elbow, but 2 elbows here. So he said, sit there, don't sign anything up till I make a phone call. And he went out and phoned Sweden, spoke to the chairman, and spoke to Keith Birkinshaw, and came back like a little boy and said, I'm sorry, Pat, I've told them that you're being transferred, and worse, I've told them that you're at Highbury. And they said, carry on, no problem.
We know the goalers that followed until probably Clemens. I mean, 82 World Cup, even played the 86 World Cup, and they had the foresight then to go, nah.
But I mean, unbelievably, I would never criticise Arsenal. They give me a 4-year contract. And the team is there throwing me out Tottenham after 13, 14 years. I signed a contract, £5,000 a year more. I haven't kicked the ball for Arsenal, and a 4-year contract. And they give me another 4-year contract after I'd done the first year. Played 327 games for them, finished up in 4 finals. And they do everything absolutely first class. Never have a bad word to say to them. They are a fantastic club. I just wish that we were doing Tottenham. I wish that we were doing what they've been doing their successful years.
Don't we all?
And I mean, nobody. There's no doubt where my loyalties lie. I've been at the club 13 years. I actually went back again for another year before the World Cup with Peter Shreves. Spent a year there, 85, leading up to 86. Whenever I finished after the World Cup in 86, I persuaded a couple of pals of mine to take a box at Tottenham. I was there for the next 7 years, seeing every home match, hosted this box at Spurs. 93, whenever Ozzy came back as manager, he invited me back to be first team goalkeeping coach. I went from 1 day a week to 2 and 3, 4 days a week. And then they brought in somebody to do it full. That was 8 days a week job. I couldn't do it at that stage. And I'm still working at Tottenham now with the coaching, on the goalkeeping coaching. With, Perry, I work a couple of days a week with Perry Stuckling with the academy boys, the young goalkeepers. We love you, and thank you. And I'm involved as well with about 8 or 9 of the boys on match day hospitality at the Lane. I've got a fantastic lounge at the club in my name as well. All my memorabilia is in show there, so there's no doubt where my loyalties lie. I'm talking.
Nice one, mate. Yeah, we know that. Right.
So nice to see after all these years how someone gets so emotional about our club. And sadly, some of the directors we had years ago, and you can argue whether we've got any better or not. It's up to you. Alan, we've got to ask you. We've got to move on here. Alan, we've got to ask you that to a lot of people over here, it's so lovely.
We're only starting, mate. We're only getting going.
Yeah, go on.
Alan, you famously the rumours are you sort of turned your back on the game. You didn't go back to Spurs for many, many years. And hopefully nights like this show you the esteem that you're held in for the wonderful career at Spurs. There was also a really good book written about you, In Search of Alan Gilzean, written by James Morgan. I'm sure many people have read. Why did you supposedly turn your back on the game and come into be at Spurs and events like this for so long?
I always enjoyed playing football. I enjoyed it very, very much. And excuse me. But when I finished, you lose a lot from your life, you know. And I never really enjoyed watching football. I enjoyed playing it. And that was one of the reasons I went away. And I just wanted to try and work out what I wanted to do with my life. And I went into the haulage industry and got promoted a few times there and became a general manager for a haulage company. And I thoroughly enjoyed haulage. But football, it breaks your heart when you've got to leave it. I can remember going to collect my boots at White Hart Lane, and it was the saddest day of my life. When you know you no longer can play the game at that high standard, and it takes so much away from you, you know. And I just decided that I'd stay away for a while. But because of this man here, he was. I went to a reunion game at Dundee Football Club where I started off, and Pat had a friend who he plays golf with, one of a band. What was the name of that?
One of the Snow Patrol.
One of the Snow Patrol band. Yeah. And he came and asked me for my autograph, and he said, Pat Jennings would love to hear from you. So I says, I've got his number here, the guy said. I said, well, I'll be back at Weston-super-Mare next week. Tell Pat I will phone him. And Pat was the reason I came back down the lane, him and Stevie Perryman. And just recently, Stevie Perryman, the little maestro Greavesy and myself, we went to Guernsey to a Tottenham reunion similar to this, and it was a wonderful experience meeting little Greavesy again. He's put on a bit of weight, but
lost half a yard, has he?
Yeah, he's lost half a yard, and funny enough, he's lost hair. I don't know how he lost it because he never headed the ball, but it was great to see him again, and he's still as lovely as ever. Like I had 5 wonderful years with him, and it was a pleasure to play with him.
Oh, nice one, thanks. Well, right. And Pat.
Well, Alan, it's lovely. It's lovely to have you back, Alan.
Yeah,
lovely to have you back.
Real privilege. A real privilege, mate.
And we're crying out for a striker now, so maybe bring your boots on Sunday.
Yeah.
We've got to wrap this up.
Yeah, wrap it up
we've
now,
gone way
lads.
over an hour.
Well,
Pat and Alan are more than happy to have photos and any bits and pieces you signed, or at the back there. There's some great calendars, download calendars, VSP Publishing. You want to pick up a book, calendar and stuff and get stuff signed. The girls, I don't know if they're still doing the raffle. We're going to do the raffle shortly. For now, for those of you listening at home, all the links, spursshow.net. Paddy Power are doing a special for Sunday for new signees. Spurs 5-1 to beat Liverpool. Any score 5-1. Spurs Show. paddypower.com/the Spurs Show. We're going to bring Barry from Watford on the stage now. Then we're going to do the raffle. If you bought raffle tickets, there's some great prizes, some stuff these guys will sign backstage.
Fantastic.
But for now, anyway, you can carry on the conversation in the back there. For now, please show your appreciation. Pat Jennings and Alan Gilzean.
thank you.
This show is brought to you in association with Paddy Power. Get a free £20 bet when you sign up and bet a tenner at paddypower.com/the Spurs Show.